Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, it's the flip side of drought shaming.
The average American uses 99 gallons of water per day. Jamie Edmonds of El Cerrito uses...
The support group giving San Diego neighbors the courage to make an extreme conservation measures.
I'm Peggy Pico, an abusive childhood and years in San Diego foster care. Author of the memoir Foster Girl joins me for a raw, intimate look at the foster care system and how she wants to change it. But first, what the ACLU and local police want you to know about the new app Mobile Justice California and how it'll work in San Diego.
And remembering a prolific condor at the San Diego Zoo, how she helped raise awareness for endangered animals. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Surf's way up along San Diego area beaches tonight, strong enough to sweep those close to the water off their feet. The heavy surf even forced a cruise ship to dock temporarily downtown, but it's gone now. This is a look at Pacific Beach. The biggest waves are expected north from Oceanside with 6 to 10-foot surf and dangerous rip currents. A high surf advisory will remain in effect until 11 tomorrow night. Now, the National Weather Service says cooler weather will continue as a weak low-pressure system sits off the Southern California coast. Rain and isolated thunderstorms are possible from the beaches to the inland valleys. We're looking at clouds along the beaches with temperatures in the 60s. 60s as well for the inland valleys. Some sun expected in the mountains with a cooling trend over the next few days. Temperatures dipping, though, into the 40s. Feeling hot in the desert with 90s and 80s. San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer started off the week of budget hearings with a pair of ceremonial scissors in Lincoln Park. He cut the ribbon on a freshly paved street, just one in the 300 miles of streets he plans to improve with his new budget. Faulconer told a crowd near Lincoln High School his budget will more equally distribute street funds across San Diego neighborhoods.
We don't fight for streets just for the sake of streets. We fight for streets to be fixed because the people that live on these streets are worth it.
As soon as the street was completed, everybody started walking around our church and seeing the other things that needed to get done. So it's like when you put a fresh coat of paint on something, everything else looks shabby. We've just really worked hard to start cleaning up those places.
Mayor Faulconer says residents in southeastern San Diego expect more help improving their neighborhood. His budget calls for $40 million in deferred maintenance on infrastructure, but the independent budget analyst warns the city needs an aggressive plan to work through a $2 billion repair backlog. City council members and citizens weigh in on the mayor's proposed budget today. This was part of a week of public hearings on his spending plan. Today, the challenge of hiring more than 400 new employees was highlighted. The independent budget analyst says the city's hiring goal for the next fiscal year, which starts in July, would be the largest in 9 years. A spokesman for the city's largest employee union says competition for qualified workers is stiff from the private sector. Now, tomorrow's session will focus on the city's capital improvement program. On Wednesday, the city's employee retirement system. Thursday's session will involve the Housing Commission, and on Friday, council members will review real estate assets. Water cops and drought shaming, what some call tattling on wasteful neighbors. They're part of the new reality for tougher water restrictions. KPBS reporter Megan Burks introduces us to San Diego neighbors who found droughts don't have to be so divisive.
The average American uses 99 gallons of water per day. Jamie Edmonds of El Cerrito uses 20.
I'm very well hydrated, actually.
The retired firefighter collects water in buckets and dishpans while he's waiting for it to warm up. He uses the saved water on his drought-tolerant yard. His new faucet aerator gets the job done with less water.
It's a nice, even, aerated stream, so it doesn't splash as much.
Outside, 2 33-gallon barrels catch rainwater.
1,000 square foot of roof, if you can catch all the rain that falls on that, with 1 inch of rainfall, you'll catch 600 gallons.
And a trip up the ladder to the roof reveals a plain of stark white rubber.
Instead of having asphalt or rocks or a bunch of sand on there that can trap a lot of dirt, this washes off really quickly and sheds all the water pretty efficiently into the rain barrels.
In January, Edmonds began spreading the conservation gospel through a program called Transition Streets. He rounded up 13 of his neighbors through flyers and the social networking site nextdoor.com. Together, they worked through a workbook on saving water and energy.
The purpose of Transition Streets is to make that change proactively, transition into a high quality of living that's not reliant on cheap, abundant water.
Transition Streets started in the United Kingdom in 2007. Today, there are more than 1,000 participating neighborhoods in 20 countries. Edmonds Group is one of 14 piloting the program in the United States. They're updating the workbook for U.S. policies and culture before a nationwide rollout this fall. Organizers say the program can save homeowners up to $900 a year and cut their carbon emissions by 1.3 tons. But Edmonds says there's another equally important outcome.
Yeah, you save a bunch of money. Yeah, you reduce your carbon footprint, but you also create a community, a support community that is invaluable. I don't see how you put a price on that.
On a recent evening, Edmonds Group gathers in an Oak Park backyard to share updates. Solar-powered lights flicker on as the shadows blur into dusk.
We've been watching our water consumption, and as a result, we've been retrofitting our fixtures inside the house.
I did a little tiny garden, so I have very fresh lettuce now.
Did an attic fan in between the combination of the two. It really cools things down during the summer.
Edmund's wife, Leslie, says she believes this kind of exchange is more effective than a state mandate or fine.
Knowing your neighbors is essential. I mean, that's part of our plan, is to devise ways to meet everybody and engage people, because it's where you start the conversation. This stuff is not going to happen from the top down. It's going to happen neighbor to neighbor.
Indeed, group members say meeting like-minded neighbors gave them the push they needed to, say, replace their incandescent light bulbs. Some say it even gave them the courage to do something drastic, like rip out their lawn. And a few now plan to inspire change in other households by starting their own groups. But what about renters or neighbors with little money to spare? Back at Edmund's house, I ask for a quick tutorial on reading a water meter. I mistakenly point at a utility box on the wall.
Water meter's out here on the street. That's electric. Yeah, no worries. And there's a lot of people that are, and they're like, I don't know, I don't even pay my water bill. You know, they don't have to think about it.
Edmonds heads over to the sidewalk where he lifts a cement lid to reveal the water meter. He then rattles through one of the lessons in the Transition Streets workbook.
The little blue triangle here is your leak indicator. So if you think you have everything shut off, you go through your whole house, make sure all the faucets and showers and hose bibs and sprinkler systems are shut off. If you come out here and see this thing moving very slowly, maybe fast, it tells you have a leak somewhere in your system.
Edmonds says Transition Streets is for homeowners and renters alike because it's not about expensive retrofits. It's about awareness.
Because you can't manage what you don't measure.
Megan Burks, KPBS News.
Video journalist Brian Myers from the Media Arts Center helped produce that story. San Diego County is rolling out a new website and hotline to report elder abuse at long-term care facilities. It follows a one-year pilot program designed to better protect seniors. Prosecutors with the District Attorney's Office opened 113 cases since it launched last summer. The county even doubled the number of patient advocates who make unannounced visits to facilities to investigate complaints. Supervisor Diane Jacobs says San Diego is preparing for the upcoming boom or silver tsunami.
Special prosecutorial unit of the DA's office is so important. Where you have the carrot approach, we also need the stick to send that message, either shape up or we're going to shut you down.
The county has seen an increase in unlicensed elder facilities, and law enforcement agencies often spend hours responding to psychiatric calls from these facilities. Now, coming up tomorrow on Midday Edition, we'll have More analysis on elder abuse and one family's personal struggle. How it inspired a San Diego man to serve and protect seniors. That's tomorrow at noon on KPBS Radio. The Supreme Court rejected a challenge to a ban on gay conversion therapy. The New Jersey law covered patients under 18. Today's move follows similar action in California, where a ban on the therapy also remains in place. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie signed the law in 2013. Supporters of the therapy say this is a restriction on the free speech rights of counselors and doctors. 6 months in jail for the San Diego man who lied about his HIV status and exposed his ex-boyfriend through unprotected sex. That's the maximum sentence handed down today for Thomas Guerrera. California law says you can't knowingly transmit an infectious or communicable disease to someone else. Today, a judge also ordered Guerrera to stay off dating websites. Following up now on a new app helping people document police actions. We first told you about Mobile Justice when it was released on Thursday. Now, Peggy Pico talks with the ACLU about how it'll work in San Diego.
So here's how the Mobile Justice California app works. First, you record a police interaction. Report it, then click the screen, and the video you've captured is sent to the ACLU. The new app is part of a nationwide effort by the ACLU to help people monitor police action. Representatives from San Diego and Chula Vista Police Departments and the County Sheriff's Office were unavailable for this interview with my guest, Kellen Rossignello, staff attorney with the ACLU of San Diego and Imperial Counties. Now, Lieutenant Scott Wall, actually from the San Diego Police Department, released a statement about the app that reads in part, "The concept is great. We only ask the public to not interfere or obstruct police in doing their job." So, Kellen, when is it legal and when is it illegal to video record a police officer interaction?
Well, the public has the right under the First Amendment to record law enforcement interactions. The only time that it's not legal is where the person is interfering with police activity. They're too close. Perhaps they're the person being detained, and them fighting against to get their phone out is interfering with their lawful arrest. But also if the person is doing some other illegal activity at the same time, like jaywalking or trespassing and recording on property that they're not allowed to be on.
So a public sidewalk, but on a private business, you couldn't record. That wouldn't be legal, correct?
Right, unless you had the permission of the private business to be there.
I see. So in addition to this advice, is there any other advice that comes along with the app as far as recording safely?
There's a lot of advice. The app includes a complete Know Your Rights section, which includes your rights when you're recording the police, your rights when you're being detained by the police, but also several other rights that the ACLU fights for every day.
And as you mentioned, though, you want to do it safely. You don't want somebody reaching into their pocket while, because why? Trying to get their cell phone out, what?
That's right. So paramount to this is maintaining safety, and if you are reaching into your pocket and an officer is trying to detain you, that can be seen as a threatening motion. So if you are going to do it, you want to make sure that you're being clear, that you're reaching for a cell phone. You don't want to do any sudden motions, and you just want to make sure that you're being safe the whole time you're exercising your rights.
Now, as we mentioned, San Diego Police Department started out their statement with this concept is a great idea. What kind of reaction are you getting from other police departments or law enforcement here?
We haven't heard so much from law enforcement, but we have heard a lot from people who are downloading the app and people and media who have reported several positive reactions to this app, and we hope that it's going to be something that's going to be widely used.
How is the ACLU going to use these videos?
The videos will be used to as evidence if we want to bring a misconduct case against law enforcement, or if someone gives us a report and we can refer it out to another organization that we work with so that they can take the case on if they would like.
Now, I know, so you're receiving these videos. Some of them I think people are already trying out, so you're not going to look at every single one of them. Who retains the rights to the video once they've sent it to you?
So the person that records the video retains the right to sell the video, but they give us permission to copy and distribute the video as we see fit. So
it goes basically dual, goes both places. Under what circumstances would the ACLU actually use this video, let's say, in a court of law or for a lawsuit?
So if we were to bring a lawsuit against a law enforcement agency for a pattern of misconduct, then we would use this video or several videos to show evidence that this misconduct was going on.
Why does the ACLU think that Californians actually need an app like this?
Well, as we've seen with several different videos dating back to Rodney King, but more recently with Eric Gardner and Walter Scott, these videos are, even if they don't ultimately result in criminal prosecution, are fueling an ongoing national conversation about law enforcement community relations. And this app is particularly important because it captures those videos that wouldn't have got out because they were destroyed or law enforcement confiscated the phone before the person could get the evidence to the community.
Do you see this maybe even evolving, hopefully, that it could be used as a way to improve trust between police and communities?
We hope so. And it's unfortunate that this app had to be created so that we can tally the instances of misconduct. But we hope that this app is going to help improve the relationship between law enforcement and the community.
And how many videos have you received so far? I know it just launched on Thursday.
We haven't received that many videos so far, and most of what we've received have been people just testing out the app. But we are hopeful, and we are looking forward to receiving the videos of actual interactions.
And will you review them all, or will you, or just the ones that have reports?
Generally, we'll review the videos where somebody also submits a report at the same time. That just helps us determine what we really want to view, and we don't want to be looking at people accidentally recording different things.
Okay, from their living room. All right, ACLU, Kellen Russell-Yellow, thank you so much.
Thank you.
She helped raise awareness for endangered wildlife. One of California's most prolific condors has passed away. The condor was featured on this 1996 stamp. Workers at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park say she was euthanized over the weekend. This was after she went through months of cancer treatment. Vets at the zoo were trying to treat an aggressive tumor in the condor. She was hatched at the San Diego Zoo in 1983, the first condor to be born in captivity. They're clinging for life. A handful of baby starfish found off the coast of Washington state. A disease wiped out millions of starfish on the west coast from Alaska to Baja California. An Associated Press reporter, Jeannie Ohm, shows us these babies may hold the key for the creature's recovery.
During low tide in Washington state's Puget Sound, volunteers search for a familiar sea creature.
They were everywhere. And then last summer, we went to count them and there were none.
Once ubiquitous, the sea star population on the west coast has been obliterated over the past 2 years.
The number of sea stars that have probably died are, I would say, tens to hundreds of millions.
While there have been mass die-offs before, never to this magnitude. Researchers say a virus is a source, an illness dubbed sea star wasting disease.
They die and then they just disintegrate into a pile of goo within the matter of, a day or two.
But now,
that's good.
A glimmer of hope. Scientists and volunteers are starting to discover new signs of life.
He found one and he was pointing to it and I was pointing to mine, look there, I got one too. So, so we were, it's something that is encouraging and it's, again, it's the best sign that you can have for a population.
Scientists are collecting data from the young survivors to understand the population's chances of recovery.
It's not as if juveniles, they're going to be able to withstand the disease completely, but certainly there is some evidence that they do much better than the adults do.
They're also studying how the lack of sea stars is affecting the ecosystem. Sea urchins, for example, are reportedly booming in some spots without the sea stars to prey on them.
A bunch of juvenile stars in here, but we can't see them well enough to measure or see how healthy they are.
Meanwhile, the young sea stars clinging to life will continue to be monitored, with the hope the ancient and colorful creatures may stick around longer. Jeannie Ohm, Associated Press.
Sometimes one person can make the difference in the life of a foster child. As we mark National Foster Care Awareness Month, a young woman shares her story growing up in the foster care system in San Diego. Peggy Pico has more.
More than 3,000 kids live in foster care in San Diego County. Of those, hundreds each year age out of the system. Joining me with a look at our region's foster care system is my guest, attorney Melanie Delgado with University of San Diego's Children's Advocacy Institute, and former foster child Georgette Todd, author of the memoir Foster Girl. Welcome.
Thank you.
Georgette, I understand at age 14, you along with your sister became foster children. What led to that?
Well, it started with my parents divorcing when I was young, and then my mother raised me as a single mother until she remarried. And then around age 13, my stepfather and my mother brought drugs into the household. And I started using drugs with them, and life was just really chaotic, and my stepfather was arrested on the day I overdosed. I overdosed in Palm Springs, and then I was taken to a hospital, and he was arrested, and my mother died shortly after. Cause of death is unknown, and there was an investigation, and then there was a drug raid, and my sister and I were taken into foster care.
I know that you're kind of chronicling this in a very light way, but your book is really quite intimate and raw, and there are a lot of really quite disturbing things that happen to you. What do you want readers to understand most about your experience through foster care and through a series of different institutions?
I really wanted to give readers an understanding of what it really feels like to be in foster care, and also, you know, there's this major stigma on foster youth that it's their fault that they're in foster care, and you'll see in my book that no, we didn't do anything to get into foster care. Something was done to us, and we're living the consequences of our parents' decisions, poor decisions. And I really just wanted to give that perspective, which I feel hasn't been given in the way that I chose to give it.
And there were a lot of details like this refrigerator being locked in one foster care house. But you also talk a lot about kinship, a lot about your sister. So Melanie, I want to ask you, the idea of kinship foster care, it comes out a lot in Georgette's book. So what is it, and how does it work here in San Diego?
Kinship care is when family will care for youth in foster care. And it's really important because it allows youth who have experienced a certain amount of upheaval in their lives to be in a family setting where they have some connection with their family members and can be rooted with their family members. And up until a year ago, families who cared for foster kids were reimbursed at a rate that is far lower than the reimbursement rate for non-related foster parents. And a year ago, or last year, a bill passed called the Approved Relative Caregiver Act, and it allows relatives who care for foster youth to be reimbursed for caring for those youth at the same rates as non-relatives who care for youth. And we're hoping that that will encourage family members to take their foster youth in.
So the foster youth with a sibling, with a brother or a sister. Right. Now, another issue with foster kids is aging out of the system. So let me ask you this, Melanie, first. What are some recent changes? What is the age now that somebody ages out of the foster care system?
Now, after AB 12, which passed in 2010 and went into effect in 2012, youth can stay in the foster care system until they're 21.
And Georgette, what happened to you after you turned 18?
Well, I would have been homeless if it weren't for my last foster mother. She allowed me to stay with her for the summer before I went off to college. But my emancipation plan, according to the workers who I called, was a binder full of homeless shelters. That was my emancipation plan. So thank God I had a good foster mother who allowed me to stay with her, because if I didn't, I would have been at the Salvation Army homeless shelter.
Both of you are advocates for foster care reform. Georgette, what's the first step you would like to see done to make the system better?
I'm really happy to hear that there's a Kinship Act that's going to be enacted in San Diego County, I think June 1st.
June 1st it takes.
I'm happy to hear that, but the problem with that is it's county opted, so that means that San Diego has opted for this program, but if relatives live in a different county and they're not part of that program, then they can't partake in the Kinship Act.
So you'd like to see it broaden. How about you, Melanie?
I think that we need to continue to ensure that foster youth receive services after they're 18, and that the services that are in place for youth who are 21 stay there. There are transitional housing placement programs for kids who are over 21 to help them after they age out to be able to remain, to continue to go to college and to land on their feet and to kind of transition into that life without foster care system. And I think those are very important.
Well, certainly, Georgette, you're a shining example of you've gone on to college, got your master's. So thank you so much for sharing this. And Melanie Delgado, thank you as well for coming on and talking to us. Now, I want to let folks know that they can meet foster girl author Georgette Todd at her Barnes & Noble book signing in Mission Valley on Saturday, May 23rd at 1 p.m.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next NewsHour. An epic story, now an epic work of art. We profile Jacob Lawrence's Migration series. That's Monday on the PBS NewsHour.
An outer space breakthrough this weekend happening during a coffee break. Astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti, the first Italian woman in space, fired up the first espresso machine in space. She posted a photo on Twitter from the space station Sunday, sipping from a cup designed for use in zero gravity and tweeting the phrase, "To boldly brew." The espresso maker came from an Italian engineering company. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.